Hello, friends. Welcome and namaste. Crystal Joy of CJoyYoga, and we're going to be doing some balancing today. So we're going to come directly onto our backs. The one thing with these shorter classes is when we want to go into bigger poses, it doesn't give us a lot of time to warm up the body. So we'll still have a couple of moments in what I always consider beginning awareness, right? You can have your feet wide, feet on the ground, knees bent, feet wide and the knees leaning in or the legs extended. Pause for a moment with the eyes closed or mostly closed, tuning into what is happening inside your body at this moment in time. And if you start to get pulled towards past or future, or, I always have fairly noisy environments since I teach outside, or when I teach outside, maybe you have stuff happening. Just try to let that go and turn back into your body. This is where we practice, right? So that we can do that when it gets even harder when we're off our mat. And then let's all of us put our feet on the ground at the knees bent, but have the feet hip distance. Without using your arms, try to keep your upper body just as soft as it was moments ago in your Shavasana upper body style, right? And go ahead and bring your right knee in towards your chest. And let's exhale and put it down. So now adding breath. Inhale, left knee coming into the chest, let the low back round. Exhale, bringing that back down. Inhale, right knee coming into the chest. Exhaling it down. Inhaling, left knee in. Exhaling it down. This time we're going to hold. So inhale, bring the right knee in. Bring your hands up in some fashion, helping the arms helping hug the knee a little closer in. And just take a breath into that. Take your right toes and circle them as much as you can. Try to keep your shin as still as possible so you isolate a little more in the ankle joint. When we get really tight, it makes it really hard to do standing poses, balancing poses, right? Go ahead and go the other way. Squats, when we have tight ankles and tight feet. And then go ahead and come back to center, interlace behind the thighs, pushing the heel up. And then go ahead and bend that knee in and pushing the heel up, straighten the leg any amount, bending it in. This time we'll hold. Push that heel up and pause there. Now you may or may not have noticed it. I didn't bring your awareness to it when we were doing it, but when the knee is in towards the chest, the low back rounds down to the ground. When we start to move the thigh away from the body, we start to pick it up a little bit, right? So try to find your natural lumbar curve. You don't want it overarched, but you don't want it laying on the ground. What is your curve? I cannot tell you. We're all very different that way. And then as you do that, soften your shoulders down, maybe extend the left leg out. So both legs are working. The weight of the left leg is on the ground, by the way. And as we push through our heels as if we were standing, first let's focus as if we were standing on the left foot, right? Standing on the left foot, and that right leg was sticking out in front of us in the air, and breathing into that space. Now, in your mind's eye, change that. Imagine that you're standing on your right foot and your body is hovering parallel to the floor in a warrior 3 type position. Yeah. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to bend the knee and try to grab the big toe. My arm comes inside my knee to do that. Now you can keep your knee bent. That part doesn't matter. You don't have to have a straight leg. Some of us might straighten the leg, but I'm going to bring your awareness into your low back. If your shoulder is way up off of the earth or your low back is flattened down to the ground, to try to get the leg, keep it bent, right? And try to work it towards, so it's almost a half happy baby for some of us. For some of us, we start to work it towards straight, keeping the right shoulder on the ground and our low back in its natural lumbar curve. Move that right leg over to the right, whatever place you're working from, keeping that left thigh and left hip steady, AKA pelvis neutrality and stability, right? And breathe in that space. My left shoulder is wanting to lift up, so I can either get my left shoulder down, and if I can't, I bring my leg a little higher, right leg back up, right? And go ahead and bring that back to center. And you're going to just release that down to the ground. Foot on the ground, please. Bring the left leg in. My friends who come in regularly and work with me, you know I love to start with the knee bent because it gives slack in the pelvis and helps us find our spinal work, right? Take your left toes and circle your left toes. Again, try to keep that isolated in the ankle joint. Go ahead and go the other way. Find your edges. Keep your shin pretty still. And then interlace behind the thigh. You're going to push the heel up and bend the knee in. So do that 2 more times. And again, notice that when the thigh comes into the body, the low back rounds. When you push the heel up, it starts to change its shape towards the lumbar curve. Different spines, different things, tight hamstrings, it's really hard. And as you lengthen the spine here and push the heel, or as you push the heel up and lengthen the leg, try to lengthen your spine as well, right? Try to soften your shoulders back down to the earth and take a breath. Now, bend the left knee. My arm comes inside the left knee. I interlace or piece fingers around my left big toe. I might stay in something like a half happy baby. And by the way, you could just hold the outside of the leg if you're like, I can't even do that, right? And you might start to straighten that leg, but don't let the left shoulder come up off of the ground. Try to get your lumbar curve back again, right? And then maybe extend that right leg out and breathe. Noticing the body, what it's like to be in the body at this moment in time. And then go ahead and release that. And you can grab the backs of the thighs and rock up. Come on into tabletop, hands and knees, and do a couple of cat cows just to move that spine around a little bit. And come back to center, moving the spine in and out of lateral flexion and extension, looking to the right and then the left, and let your tail wag too if you can find that. And just move the spine in and out of what I often refer to as a C curve and a reverse C curve. And come on back to center. Let's let our shoulder blades move in circles. So if you need to be on your knees, your buttocks to do that without the weight, please do. Otherwise, put more weight into your finger pads so it's not all on the wrists. And start to do those scapular cars that I love so much. My spine tries to stay in its elongated state, even while I move my shoulder blades. Other direction. And then come on back to your neutral. You're going to go ahead and curl your toes under, moving the hips up and back into downward facing dog. Breathing. Now lift your right leg up into the air, and I just simply want to point out we've already been in this shape once. We didn't have our arms over our head, of course, but we were laying on our back. And I said, imagine standing right on the sky with your body parallel. So it's the same shape, but a little bit different here. Go ahead and bring that right foot down and inhale that left leg up, square hip. Imagine the back of your body was against an angled ceiling or sky, as it were, right? Breathe and notice. And bring that down. Bring your knees down. Go ahead and bring your right leg up behind you like we just did, right? So similar position. Now we're going to work that external rotation for the second balancing pose we're going to do. So keeping your hips level, don't let your right hip lift, let your right knee move out to the right. I sometimes call this dog at a fire hydrant, right? And then let the knee move a little forward towards the elbow and then reach it back behind you and do that one more time. Try not to move the pelvis, try to move the bone, the femur bone in the socket. Come forward towards the elbow, we're reversing the direction, out to the side and back, and do that one more time. In an ideal world, which we don't live in, nothing moves except for the femur and obviously the leg below it. Bring that down, find neutral, elongated spine, lift the left leg up without lifting the hip, the pelvis, yeah? And then go out to the side. It's not gonna come all the way out to the side. I mean, like the height of the hip. Go forward towards the elbow and then finish that circle off and do that direction one more time. And then you're going to switch and you're going to go the other direction. Bring that down. Hands can go a little forward if they want to. Come back up into downward facing dog. We're going to walk our feet forward to our hands. You can always go the other way, which is easier, especially first thing in practice. Walk your feet forward to your hands. Hands on shins, lengthen the spine. Pause there. Find your core line from pelvic floor through crown of head. Feet pushing down. Hands on hips. Come on up to standing. Okay, so we're going to kind of go right into it. Okay, so standing up, start slowly though. We're just getting into balance. If you're on uneven ground like me, find a good place for the right foot that's stable. And then as you start to bend that left knee, suck that right hip in. Again, my regulars, you know how much I drill this work, right? And then from there, you're going to go ahead and maybe see if you can lift that leg up. You're going to have to lose your spine a little bit to reach down and to get your big toes like half happy baby. You can either, well, let's try to find the longest spine. And you can either just push the heel forward, but keep the knee incredibly bent, right? Half happy baby. Or you can go ahead and you can start to extend the right leg out in front of you. Now, if you couldn't straight it with your back on the ground without your shoulder coming out of the socket, or without your you losing the low back, double check those things. We don't have that feedback of the floor underneath us, but keep that right shoulder against left shoulder against an imaginary wall. Keep the lumbar curve and try to extend that heel forward as much as you can. You can keep it super bent. I'm going to today. And then I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try to go to external rotation and let that leg move over to the left without my hip moving back behind me. And then I'm going to move that forward and release that down. You could do this work with a chair or a wall or whatever works for you, table, etc. And one hand could be on that surface. Find good footing for your left foot, nice even ground, the best you can. Hands can be anywhere. I like them on the hip just because it gives them a home, and I really like the biofeedback mechanism of paying attention to what my hips do when I lift into balance. Go ahead and bend your right knee. Really rooting down through that left foot. Hug the left glute in when you do the lift. That's going to want to get lost. And again, I lose my spine for a moment to put my peace fingers around my big toe. You could use a strap, but I encourage you, use a bent knee and play with this position. This is a whole different thing, right? And if I had a wall against you, your back, would your right shoulder be against the wall? Mine is not. This is my a weaker side, right? Try to get that right shoulder back against the wall, the longest spine you ever did find, and a little bit of your natural lumbar curve. And maybe you do straighten that right leg. I am not going to today. That's not with me today. I sure wish it was. I'm teaching a yoga class and all, but it's not. So I'm going to be honest with my body. And then see if you can maybe let that leg, just the leg, don't let that right hip move back as you move the right leg over to the right. And then bringing that back to center and bringing that all the way back down to the ground and pause. And we could play with this for days, of course. But we're going to look at this position 2 more times. Go ahead and step your feet out wide on your mat. Turning to the right first, left toes in, heel on, triangle. And have a block at the front of that mat if you want it for the potential of moving into Ardha Chandrasana. I just really want to address that knee because there are a few people that I work with regularly where the knee just gets jammed and it feels painful. And so let's bend that right knee just a little bit, right? Spread that right foot out, push through the ball mounds of the right big toe, all 3 corners of the feet, right? And then go ahead and pull the kneecap up so that it's not locked out and that knee stays healthy. Triangle can be a doozy on the knee if you're not aware of your knee health. Put your right hand in the bottom of the briefs, right, on that right side, and push that hip to the left side of the mat. Lengthen both sides of the torso. You can slide those right hands down onto the block or the leg for now and reach the left fingertips up. So I just want to point out, yes, of course, it is a slightly different position, but we did do something very much like this already on our back. So here we are hitting this position again, right? And now we're going to play with balance. So put your left hand on your hip, look down. Just suggestions, you don't have to do that. Bend your right knee and step that left foot in a little bit till you can get your right hand on a block in front of the foot, about 1.5, 2 feet on the pinky side, right? Any level. I'm going to go to medium because it's more stable on my uneven ground. And then lift that left hip up. Now, before you get too crazy with all the other things, try to see if you can't put yourself against a wall, right? So that the right hip and the left shoulder are against the same wall. That left heel would not go further back. That's what a lot of us do. It would be at the same wall, as is the back of my head, right? Maybe that left arm reaches up, maybe not. Maybe you turn and look up. Maybe you straighten the right knee. Maybe you keep it a little bit bent, but you're technically in the same shape you were just in, triangle. Few slight differences, it's true. The same shape you were in when you were standing and brought the leg over to the side, right? A version of Parangujdasana. And the same shape you were in laying on your back, reaching that leg over to the side. Go ahead and release back. That foot comes down, come all the way up, turn the toes forward and pause. So I hope that makes sense. Not all teachers teach this way, but the way I was taught and the way I love to work in my own body, and therefore the way I teach, is that we do a shape multiple times throughout class. And we start with the most accessible place, the least weight-bearing place, like that kind of thing, where it's not the strength and the balance. And then by the time we come into the strength and the balance, hopefully our body is familiar with the shape. You want that block on the left side now, turning out to the left. And again, I want to just address the knee health for the next two poses particularly, right? So I'm going to root down through all three corners, bend my knee a little bit, root down through all three corners of the left foot. And then when I do straighten it, I'm going to pull my kneecap up, up, up as I push down, 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 down without locking my knee out. Inhale the arms out, chest towards the long edge. With that hand and that bottom of the brief line, and push that left hip back to the right. And breathe. Maybe those fingertips come down. Maybe those right fingertips reach up. And stay here. Don't hop right into Ardha Chandrasana. This is the basis for that pose. So that back leg, right? Really root that heel down. If I put you against a wall, would your left hip, the back of your head, your right shoulder, and the back of that right heel all touch the same wall? Would you have your natural lumbar curve, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? If you want to go, look down, right hand on hip. Bend left knee and step forward a little bit with both the right hand and, the left hand and the right foot. And then as you get long and find your core, lift that right leg. And again, try to get your back body against that wall again. It's way harder when you're just on one leg. With the knee a little bent, make sure that knee's going over the second toe. And then, yeah, you might straighten the leg. Yeah, you might reach the right fingertips up. You might turn and look up. All of these things are on the table. But again, if it's helpful, imagine that you had a wall against the back body that you were using as a tool to figure out where your body parts are in space, A, and B, feel the support of said wall. Really root down through that left foot and come on down, or come on up maybe. And turn the toes forward and go ahead and step in. Pardon me. I could take this in many, many directions and places, and in a longer class, I probably would, but that's what we have for today. But let's go ahead and let's come on down through chair pose. It can be wide or it can be narrow, but come on down to your buttocks. They're cleaning the streets today. And go ahead and let those legs come out wide. Find the buttocks bones. Find the length of the spine. And then keep the legs working a bit. They're your foundation here, right? I mean, I could teach it differently if I was teaching yin, but I'm not, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and keep that belly pulled back even as I fold out over my legs until I start to access my inner groin and try to help them lengthen a little bit and soften. So if you can't soften and everything gets really rigid and hard, come up a little bit, right? If you can't breathe, you're too far in, come up a little bit. Find that space where you can feel, yes, a little bit of a stretch and like you're helping lengthen, but where the body can receive that, where it can soften into that, where it doesn't feel threatened. Maybe, I'm not saying you should, please don't judge yourself or try to make it happen, but after you've been there for a few breaths, you might even notice that, you know, you need to bend the elbows more, or maybe your forearms can come down, or etc. Let's be here for about 2 more breaths. And hands can come to the earth to help push you up. Go ahead and help those legs in. Come onto your back body. And once you get there, let's go ahead and bring the knees into the chest. With your hands on your kneecaps, circle your knees together. Move the other direction. Feet on the ground, feet as wide as the mat, arms teed out, windshield wiper, knees right, center, left, center, your own timing. Head can turn opposite way, doesn't have to. And then when you feel complete with that cycle, you can just let the knees lean in and take constructive rest pose, bringing the arms down a little bit, or you can extend those legs all the way out. Casting the eyes downward or closing the eyes. So again, we try to withdraw the senses. And all that means is take them from, to change them from taking in external stimulation to tuning into your internal world. If you can stay here, please do. If you are on time commitment, take your time, add in a little movement if you'd like, and let's meet in an upright posture. And as you bring your hands together in front of your heart and you gently bow your head in, just taking a few more moments with that inner peace you might have built, cultivated, felt, noticing what it's like to be inside the body at this moment in time. Namaste, friends. May you be well.